Election day and made it to the middle of the week. Everyone's minds are on the votes that have been cast, and we're all waiting for the final counts to come in. And now there's some debate brewing about the mail-in votes and how and when they're being accepted and counted. All eyes are certainly on the swing states that'll decide who emerges as the winner on the presidential ticket. And here to help us break down the election and talk about the votes that have been cast is investigative journalist Greg Palast. Hello, Greg. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Glad to be with you again. Good morning.
So, voters, everybody, we're eager to know the final results of the 2020 presidential election. When do you expect a winner to be announced?
In about a week. I mean, it's going to go to the courts. One thing I was very concerned about, I wrote a book called How Trump Stole 2020. And, it was not a prediction. It was kind of a warning. But look, I started out by saying in Georgia. It's not like California, believe it or not. Georgia's a different state and may come down to Georgia. They removed 198,000 people from the voter rolls for no good reason, mostly African Americans. That may decide our election. I'm very concerned. When it comes to mail-in balloting, I'm sorry, guys, I've warned you. And if you're not in California, where we do accept mail-in balloting or used to it on the left coast, but in the rest of America, there's a tremendous problems getting mail-in ballots counted, a lot of challenges to those votes. I've been very concerned about this. I've been warning and writing about it. So I'm very concerned about Pennsylvania, about Michigan, Wisconsin, in the mail-in votes, whether they will be counted. According to Caltech and MIT, about 22% of mail-in ballots get lost, don't get counted, get challenged, signatures, postage due, you name it. We don't have that problem in California in general elections, but you have to go to Georgia and Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania to understand why these mail-in votes are a big problem, and it's going to be a fight over every ballot.
Yeah, you've done quite a bit of research on mail-in ballots, and obviously in the pandemic they took on a new importance in terms of people feeling safe about voting. And there's debate about how they're being counted and if how they're being received, when they're being received. Are these going to be the deciding factor?
Yes, I'm very concerned. Look, we have Americans mailing in ballots. They're not fraudulent voters. These ballots didn't come from Venezuela. No one's serious is saying that these are fraudulent voters. These are Americans, citizens casting their votes. We should be counting all the votes. But unfortunately, we have an unusual system in the USA. I've worked around the world. I can tell you we're odd in that we have a system in which people can challenge votes that have been cast.
Wow, we're odd.
That's very disturbing.
Yeah, what about future elections? Do you think this whole mail-in voting is going to change the dynamic?
Well, if we have mail-in voting as we do in California, Oregon, Washington on the West Coast, where the system is designed to accept mail-in ballots, we don't have a problem. But when you get to the system where you have to ask for a ballot and 1 in 10 people don't get them, this is places like Georgia and Michigan and Pennsylvania. So that you have all kinds of problems, plus all kinds of rules that allow people to say, oh, we don't like your signature, we don't like there's postage due, you didn't use the internal envelope. You've got all kinds of problems with mail-in votes. We haven't cracked that system yet. And so I hope we respect the fact that Americans are trying to cast their vote, and we simply count them.
Now, you mentioned earlier about, almost 200,000 voters being taken off in Georgia. Is this related to voter purging? What does that mean?
Yes. Well, purging, and by the way, go to Leonardo DiCaprio's Instagram storybook, and you will see The Purge, a film we did with him. And it explains that 198,000 people, actually, we measured it, were removed from the Georgia voter rolls on grounds they had moved. We found out that they didn't move. Unfortunately, too many of the people removed were students and African Americans, that is, generally Democratic voters. I'm very concerned that we have a system in the U.S. in many states, including Georgia and Michigan, North Carolina, where we purge voters. Like that movie, the TV show The Purge, where once a year you get to kill anyone you want. Well, once a year, we have public officials who have the right to remove people from the voter rolls that they don't like. I think that system has got to end. We're not doing that in California. I don't think any democracy should be playing games with the voter rolls.
Okay, and you keep mentioning Georgia as a swing state. We also have Wisconsin. What is your feeling? Which way do you think those states will go?
Well, I did films in, you'll see in the DiCaprio site, my films in Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And what we found is that there's tremendous problems in these states, but I think that in Georgia, with 200,000 voters removed, quite questionably, especially voters of color, I think that Trump will end up taking that. Wisconsin, they're much more aware of voting problems. They try to overcome them. And Michigan, it's going to be touch and go, but I think that those go to Biden. And the real question comes down to Georgia and then ultimately to whether the votes will be counted in Pennsylvania. That's what I'm very concerned about, that we count all the votes. If all the votes are counted because the issue becomes Philadelphia, then probably Biden would win, which is, of course, why Donald Trump wants to stop the vote count. We have to decide whether, as Americans, we want to stop the vote count or whether we want all the votes to count. And that's the real issue. So I think if that happens, I think Biden's in. But, of course, that's horse race guessing. I'm nonpartisan. I don't have a dog in this fight. But I do have to say that I hope that all the votes are counted. I think we're going to see a fair count in California, but that might not help the nation.
All right, Greg Palast with some insight for us. Yep, we're all going to keep our eyes on this situation. For more reports from Greg, visit his website, gregpalast.com.